The market is a little scary for basketball card investors right now. Should you be concerned? Today on Sports Card Investor, I show you the data to answer that question. My name is Jeff Wilson. By day, I invest in tech companies, and at night, I invest in sports cards. Join me on my journey to profit from the hobby we all love. Hello, sports card investors, and welcome to another episode. I hope you have enjoyed your weekend. I hope you got outside. The crisp fall air is lovely right now. At least it is in Atlanta. Fall is undoubtedly here. We're very close to Halloween, and things are actually getting a little scary. And it's not just the inflatable witches and goblins in your neighbor's yard that are making things scary, but it's actually the fact that the basketball card market has been on its way down. And there are people such as you and such as me that are going, what's going on? We're not used to this happening. We're not used to basketball cards going down. That doesn't happen. I thought they were just supposed to go up all the time. I thought that cards were supposed to go up forever because that's what has been happening the entire year. So why would I think that that wouldn't continue to happen, right? Have you thought that? But of course, it's not continuing to happen. And this graph, bring up this graph right now. This is a scary graph for basketball card investors. This is Trae Young and Luka Doncic's 2018 Prism base cards and PSA 10. And this is the feel-good period, man. Like all this year, they're going up and up. And of course, they came down a little bit once sports paused, but then they went up and 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 up again through the middle of August. And then all of a sudden, hey, what happened? These cards for the last few months have been coming down. They've been declining. What's going on? Why is this going on? What's going on? Should you be worried? Should I be worried that this might continue to happen? It's not just Luka and Trae. It's most cards. This is LeBron James 2003 Topps card in PSA 10. Same pattern. Look at how this card has been coming down on the right side of the graph here in the most recent couple of months. What does this mean? Should you be scared? I don't think you should be. And in today's episode, I'm going to give you 5 reasons why I don't think you should be scared, and I think you should still be confident in the basketball card market. But let me first show you the data as to why. And the data as to why I'm drawing the conclusions that I am drawing in today's episode. And let me remind you that all of this data, all of the charts and graphs that you are going to see on today's episode, they are now available to you for half the price, because we have rolled out with our new Market Movers Lite. It is a light version of Market Movers that still gives you access to all of the charts and graphs that you are going to see on today's episode. And for thousands and thousands of other cards, it is half the price. Go check it out now. Go to sportscardinvestor.com and click on Market Movers in the main menu bar. Okay, let's take a look at some graphs and figure out what is happening in the basketball card market. So I'm going to start with Zion. And the reason why I'm going to start with Zion is because his cards have had the most sales volume this year. For the year as a whole, they have been the hottest cards in terms of sales volume in the basketball card market. This is Zion's progression over the last 90 days with his card prices. You can see that his card prices, just like the Luka cards I showed you, just like the Trae cards I showed you, just like the LeBron cards I showed you, these cards peaked out. Now in Zion's case, right around the beginning of August. With Luka and Trae and LeBron, it was a little further into August. And then they've been on a slide down since then. And in fact, over the last 90 days, Zion's cards as a whole, if we look at our stats area down here, they're down 29%. And that's a pretty big dip, especially, gosh, if you bought into these cards in July and now all of a sudden your cards are worth 29% less. You're watching the show going, what is going on? And Oftentimes, when people watch this show, they'll say in the comments, well, why do you always just look at Prism? Like, why can't we look at other variations of cards? Well, the reason why I often use Prism is because it's the highest sales volume. More people are buying and selling Prism cards than any other type of card. So as a result of that, you get the truest trend lines. But we can certainly look at other brands of cards, and let's do it. So I've added this on this graph here. I've added his Prism base, his Prism silver, his optic hollow, his optic base, his mosaic silver, his mosaic base. Within Market Movers, we track a ton of different cards, so you can throw as many of them onto the chart as you want. Now this, when you put a whole bunch of cards on the same chart like this, as you can see, it begins to become tough to understand the trend lines when you're looking at it from a dollar standpoint. So I'm going to switch this chart to look at it from a percentage standpoint. So all of the cards are now being charted based on percentage change instead of dollar change. And it shows a much more true story of what's going on. And what you can see here is that the change that occurred with his Prism base card, which is this red line right there, that red line, this same type of change has occurred with all of his other cards. They're all down somewhere between about like 15 and 45% or 15 and 50%, somewhere in that range. They're all going down. In fact, the bottom card, this blue line, that is his Mosaic base card in PSA 10. The Mosaic has actually gone down the most out of all of these cards, but the general downwards trend line exists across all of Zion's cards. So even though I'm going to show you stats that are based often on their Prism cards, you can assume that the optics and the mosaics and the selects and the contenders and all of the various sets are seeing a similar type of rise or fall, because that's what normally happens when you look across various sets of basketball cards. So Zion's cards as a whole, definitely down over the last 90 days. But what happens if we look at the last few weeks? Let's zoom in on what has been going on since October 1st. So we separate ourselves a little bit from the Pelicans being bounced from the bubble, from everything that was happening in the bubble, and we look at just what's been going on since October 1st. And so that is these same cards that we just looked at on the previous graph. Here they are again, looking at the percentage changes since October 1st. With 0% change being this middle line in the graph. And what this is telling us is that all of his cards have been relatively flat over the course of the last few weeks since October 1st. Some of them are up a little bit, some of them are down a little bit, but they're all within a range of plus or minus 14%. Most of them are closer to that zero line, that middle line, in terms of how these cards have gone up or down over the last 14 days. So what that tells me is a lot of the downwards movement that was occurring, at least with Zion, has now started to level off, has started to plateau since the beginning of October. Let's see if this is true for other players. So let's go to Luka, another player with, obviously extremely popular, extremely high transaction volume. And here on this graph, I've put Luka's rookie cards. I've got his Select Concourse in PSA 10, his Prism base in PSA 10, his Optic base in PSA 10, and his Hoops base in PSA 10. So I wanted to put a variety of different cards on the chart. Again, looking at them by dollars, it's sometimes a little hard to tell exactly what the movements are compared to each other. So let's switch to percentage. And you can see that all four of these cards have followed an extremely similar trend, where they all peaked around the middle of August, right in that period, and they've all come back down since that point in time. Now, one difference between Luka's cards and Zion's cards is that even though there was a rise and a dip over the last 90 days, as a whole, Luka's cards are still up over the last 90 days. This is the zero line right here, you can see. And so you can see that all of his cards are still up a little bit in terms of percentage over the last 90 days, where Zion's cards were down over the last 90 days. Luka's cards are up, and that attributes to the fact that Luka performed better in the bubble. People were very excited about the Mavericks in the bubble. They did pretty well. Luka had that epic game-winning shot in the playoffs in the bubble. So people are a little more excited about Luka's recent performance than Zion's recent performance. So that makes sense. But you can see, even 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 though Luka had a great performance in the bubble, if you had bought into his cards in the middle of August in this period, you're still hurting right now. I mean, these cards are down quite a bit, just as many cards in the basketball market are. So let's zoom in a little bit and look at Luka's cards since the beginning of October. Is this trend continuing? Are they continuing to go down? Or was this just, are we starting to plateau? Is that what's happening? In the case of Luka, we're very strongly seeing that plateau. In fact, his base prism, which is this top card, the blue line here, that card's actually up since October 1st. So if we go and look at it over just the last couple of weeks, that card is up 7.5% since October 1st. His other cards are down slightly since October 1st. So if we look at his Optic Base, which is the purple line, or his Select Concourse, which is the orange line, or the green line, which is his Hoops, those are all slightly down since October 1st. But overall, on average, Luka's cards are actually up slightly since October 1st. So much like Zion, we've seen kind of a plateau effect the last few weeks. We saw him coming down for a while, and we've seen kind of a plateau effect from there. Let's look at a few other guys. Let's look at Giannis. Giannis is a guy whose cards have come down a lot over the course of the last 3 months. And here's his last 3-month graph up on the screen. We're looking at his 2013 Prism PSA 10, the top line on the graph, and his 2013 Hoops PSA 10, the bottom line on the graph. And if I switch these to percentage change, so you can actually better compare those two lines together, you see they follow almost the exact same trend line. And this is common. We see this across the sports card hobby where cards of a particular player, it doesn't matter what brand or set they are, they're often following this same basic pattern. Sometimes one will be outpacing the other by a little bit, but in general, they're following a somewhat similar rise and fall pattern. And you can see here, it doesn't matter if it's the Giannis Prism or the Giannis Hoops, it's almost the exact same pattern to how these cards are rising and falling over the course of the last 90 days. And these cards over the last 90 days are down around 20% collectively. If you were to average those two together, they're down right around 20% over the last 90 days. So not quite as much as Zion. They haven't dropped as much as Zion, but they've dropped significantly. And considering Luka actually over the last 90 days was slightly up, this is a pretty big drop for a Giannis card over the last 90 days. But let's zoom in on the last couple of weeks. Let's zoom in since October 1st with Giannis and see if his cards have continued to go down or if they flattened up. And with Giannis, here we actually see his cards have gone up over the course of the last few weeks. If we go back to October 1st, Giannis's cards are actually up between 5% and about 13-14% since October 1st. So Giannis's cards have not only seemingly plateaued, but they've started to tick back up a little bit. So we're seeing a similar pattern with Zion, with Luka, and with Giannis in that we had the big dip, but that since October 1st, over the last few weeks, we've really seen a plateau, or in the case of Giannis, even a slight increase. So that to me, as a basketball card investor, is really good news. I want to see a plateau. And this is reason number one where I will tell you I'm not concerned right now. I don't find this to be very scary. We are now seemingly at a plateau point. The month of October has been flat for a lot of modern basketball cards. I will take flat. Flat is okay. What I don't want to see is drops continuing. If we remain flat through the next couple of months, I'm good with that because I fully believe that momentum will pick up again as we start to get close to next season. And this is reason number two for me that I am not concerned. Next season is not that far away. Now, I'm actually thankful as a basketball card investor that the NBA has announced they will not start next season until likely sometime in January. It will not start before January. I like that. I like the fact that there's going to be a little bit of a gap because frankly, we need that. We need to take attention away from basketball so that when it comes back to basketball, people are kind of wanting basketball again and attention can come back really strong. But at the same time, I don't want too big of a gap. And we're going to get less of a gap this year than we get between normal seasons. That is also good to me. I like the fact that we're going to have a little bit less of a gap than normal because we don't have to wait too long. So it's just, in my opinion, it's just long enough to have basketball restarting again in January. I really like the timing of basketball restarting in January. I think it's going to be good timing. You know, the NFL season is going to be winding down. We're going to be deep into the playoffs by that point in time. MLB season will be obviously way over, completely dormant. So the start of basketball can become a major news story in January. We'll also be past the holidays, so people will really start to focus again on the sports world and the sports calendar. That's going to be a really good thing. So if we can simply remain plateaued for the next 2 or 3 months, I'm good with that. Because once we get into December, and then especially once we get past the holidays and get into January, and there's all this talk of the season starting, I feel strongly that basketball cards will be on the rise again in January. I think that will definitely occur. And so, sure, let's stay plateaued and let's get ready for that rise to occur. As long as we're not continuing to go down, and that does not seem to be occurring across all the data, totally fine with me. Buy during this time period. Honestly, that's what I am doing. I think now is a buy opportunity because I am anticipating the rise of cards again as the start of next season. Another thing I want to point out is that while basketball cards, modern basketball cards, have been going down over the last 90 days, it is worth noting that vintage cards have not been following that same pattern. And let me show you a couple examples. Now, I don't know if, you may not consider 1986 Jordan cards to be vintage. Technically, they're not. Vintage is pre that era. So we'll just call them older cards. Older historical Hall of Fame basketball cards have actually been in many cases on the rise, while modern cards have been on the fall. Here is a look at a variety of Jordan's cards over the last 90 days. This is his 86 Fleer and his 87 Fleer, and we're looking at this in PSA 10, PSA 9, and PSA 8. So we're looking at a variety of Jordan cards here on the graph, and this is a percentage change graph. So over the last 90 days, you can see how these cards have all increased or decreased from a percentage standpoint, and every single one of them is up over the last 90 days. They're all up. And if we go down here into the detailed results, you can see by how much they are all up. 75%, 60%, 34%, 17%, 28%, and 11%. All of those cards are up significantly over the last 90 days. So while some of us have concerns about the modern market, those who have been invested heavily in older Hall of Fame cards are kind of like, what's the problem? Why do you think the basketball card market is scary? Because from the prospect of someone who owns classic Jordan cards, the basketball card market has been great over the last 90 days. And it's not just Jordan cards. If we look here, for example, at the classic Julius Erving, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson card from 1980 Topps, and we look at this one in PSA 9, PSA 8, PSA 7, these are all up a little bit as well. They're also up over the last 90 days. And if we look at what those cards have done, the PSA 9 is up 33%, the PSA 8 is down 3%, the PSA 7 is up about 11% over the course of the last 90 days. So the fact that the vintage card market is strong or the Hall of Fame card market is strong tells me that, the basketball card market overall, people are still putting money into basketball cards. There's still a lot of people pursuing basketball cards. And the factors that led people to the markets over the last year that caused us to have an incredible price rise over the last year, those factors are still there. And this is another reason why I'm not concerned. There are still more and more people getting into sports cards every day. There are still many major publications putting out new articles about how hot the sports card market has been, how hot the basketball card market has been. There's still institutional money coming into the sports card market. I just personally put an investment into a new startup that is coming into the sports card market that I'm very optimistic about their opportunity to do something really great and really disruptive within the sports card world and continuing to build up the sports card market. And I can tell you that I am given business plans, multiple business plans a week by different startup entrepreneurs and founders who are looking to build businesses within the sports card market. They are everywhere right now. And that gives me enthusiasm that we're going to see this hobby continue to grow and grow. And my final point today, the fifth reason why I do not think you should be worried about the basketball card market is look how far we've come this year. Let's go back to those graphs that we showed at the beginning of the episode. This is Trae Young and this is Luka Doncic. And yes, they have both gone down since the middle of August. But guys, look at where they were in January versus where they are today. And let's go look at those percentage increases. Luka's Prism Base PSA 10, his rookie card, is up 486% since January 1st. And Trae Young is up 451% since January 1st. And let's switch over and look at LeBron. That LeBron Topps basketball card, his rookie card from 2003, that has come down a lot in the last few weeks. Well, that card is still up 517%. 517% since the beginning of the year. So the trend has been amazing. We were due for a cooling off period. The market was so hot that we were due for things to cool off a little bit. And it has happened. It's been a weird year, obviously, with the NBA having to play in the bubble, so many things going on this year, the economy, that affecting people. And yet, despite all of that, LeBron's cards are up 500+%. Luka and Trae's cards are up 400+% over the course of the year. So I am not worried. The market overall is still hot. People are still getting into it every single day. There is still room for these cards to continue to go up. And I am very bullish, very optimistic that as we get to the end of this year and we start to get into next year, that you're going to see these cards on the rise again. I don't have a crystal ball. That's my opinion. I'm only giving you what I think, and I do not know for sure, but I'm encouraged by the data. I'm encouraged by the state of the hobby overall. There's a lot of reasons why I am still a big believer, and I am buying. I am spending a lot of money still to this day on buying basketball cards because I'm still very optimistic about their long-term outlook. I'd love to hear what you think. Let me know in the comments below what you think of the current state of the basketball card market, and if you think my analysis is correct or if you think I'm wrong, and if you think things are going to start to go down again. I would love to hear what you think. And also, if you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, subscribe to the show on YouTube. Hit the little bell icon so you are notified of new episodes. And if you want to check out this type of data 24/7, updated every day with all of these charts and graphs and statistics about thousands and thousands and thousands of cards, you can find that with the new half price plan. Market Movers Lite, half the price of Market Movers Pro. It just came out. Go check it out. Go to sportscardinvestor.com and click Market Movers in the main menu bar. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. We'll see you back in a couple of days with our next episode. Take care.